What's up, everyone? I'm live. Oof. I feel weird without the headphones, but I'm trying out this new style. I'll probably put on the headphones when I get on the video today. So before I get into anything, as some of you guys know, YouTube seems to be cracking down on anything mentioning Matt Walsh, Dylan Mulvaney. I don't know about the Bud Light situation, but I might throw some caution a little bit about doing videos around that topic. I'm still going to talk about transgenderism in general, but Dylan Mulvaney seems like you can't talk about this guy anywhere you're going. So, just for reference, if someone's watching this on the replay, I want to leave a link to my Rumble account. So, if you guys got a Rumble account, make sure to follow me over there. I'm over there at Rumble. Let me know what you guys are thinking. I know I started to stream a little bit early because I just want to give myself time to warm up before I actually start the show. So it might be just 4 minutes of me just rambling. But hey, I digress. I don't think I would be. Actually, I'm gonna try to just get directly into it. So without further ado, do I have any other announcements? Another announcement I do other than the Rumble point. I want to get you guys feedback on it on the replay, or if you're in the live chat. Let me know if you want me guys to continue covering news, because I've been noticing that my views have been down this week, and obviously it happens throughout I'm gonna have good weeks, I'm gonna have bad weeks. I was due for one anyway because I've been performing pretty well this past few months, so it was bound to happen. But I want to know if you guys would like me to focus more on breaking down topics and ideas, or do you like the fact that I've been including news lately into my upload schedule? Let me know. Let me know in the comment section if you're watching this on the replay. Let me know in the live chat if you're in the live chat. I've been interested in hearing you guys' opinions on this. I've been trying to really hone in on what value do I want to bring into this internet space. You get what I'm trying to say? I don't know. I hope that makes sense. But without further ado, I think I got everything out of the way. Let's get into the video. So, first topic of this stream, and this whole stream is about wokeness is destroying America. This is going to be the theme of this live stream, because I honestly believe that our nation will be destroyed by this ideology, right? Because this is an opinion piece, but I agree with this opinion. Biden's now pushing Americans with high credit scores to subsidize certain home buyers. You heard that right. If you have good credit, you're being punished for it. I have good credit. I'm getting punished for it. And now, I'm not in the housing market right now. I'm done. I bought my house in 2022. I'm good. But for future homeowners, this can't stand. You're already making the home buying process more complicated, Joe Biden. And this is another example of people getting what they voted for. You voted for Joe Biden. Hey, you signed up for this stuff. And this is why I'm starting to think wokeness will destroy America. Like, you essentially want to incentivize people who are high-risk borrowers, make it easier for them to borrow money so they can get an asset which they can't properly maintain because they don't have the financial means to actually maintain that product. Like, from a long-term perspective, this is dangerous. This is a dangerous policy. But hey, let me stop talking. Let me get into the article first, and then I'll give my opinion at the end of the article. Just when you think the Biden administration can't possibly have made any more awful ideas, his team rolls out a plan to punish Americans with high credit scores to subsidize high-risk home buyers, right? And this is another thing, point about wokeness, is that you know who these high-risk homeowners are. Based on statistics, black people have an average lower credit score than other people, than Latinos. Now, and Latinos are also in this mix as well. Asians have on average higher credit scores than whites. Whites have higher credit scores than Latinos and blacks. So you know who the high risk homeowners are. So you know who he's catering to. And this is another thing about equity and, we got to make equal outcome. No, you're not qualified to buy a house. You got bad credit, means you're not a good steward of managing debt. You don't have the income possibly to pay that debt off. You're seen as a high risk borrower. Common sense. But wokeness wants to erode that from people now. And I don't understand the necessity of that. It baffles me that in America in 2023 that we keep trying to push this ideology about making everything fair. Who decides fair? You deciding what something is fair or not is purely a subjective matter. It is not objective. In my view, the only thing a government has any business doing is guaranteeing everyone has an opportunity to do something. But the government trying to pursue a guarantee of an outcome is utopian. Like, and we all know what happens with a utopian society. It's technically a dystopian society. But I digress. Hey, look, I'm getting warmed up. On Wednesday, the Washington Times reported that starting May 1st, Americans purchasing a new home or refinancing their existing mortgage can expect to pay higher mortgage rates, monthly fees if they have a higher credit score. Wow, punishing responsible people. Who vote for Democrats anymore? When there was a rap song I heard, I forgot who it was. I think it was Bryson Gray or some song I ran across. Dude said, Democrats are the party of the lazy. And yo, I'm starting to believe him. What society punishes their most productive and responsible group of people with higher credit score? You're incentivizing people not to be responsible. And this is what I'm talking about. Don't look up to government to save you from anything. Government is only there to create incentive structures for you. That's it. That's what they're mainly there for. Not to guide you, not to future-proof anything, not to guarantee any happiness. They're not here to guarantee any happiness. They're only here to make sure you have an opportunity to do it for yourself. The government's job is to guarantee the liberty, life, and the pursuit of happiness. It didn't say guarantee of happiness, the pursuit of happiness. That means the responsibility to make your life happy is on you, not on the government. But the Democrats want to put out this idea that it's the government's job to make sure it helps, it fulfills your dream for yourself. Like it doesn't make any sense. But this is just them trying to find ways to justify their power. But I digress. I'm trying to get through the article, guys. But this has been weighing on me this entire week since all this woke stuff been going on. Americans with lower credit scores and smaller down payments will be given better rates. In other words, Biden is essentially stealing money from the rich to give to the needy by adjusting the fees on loan level price adjustments. The changes do not make sense. Senior loan officer at Bay Equity Home Loan, Ian Wright, told the Times. Penalizing borrowers with larger down payments and credit scores will not go over well. It overcomplicates things for consumers during a process that already feel overwhelming, and the amount of paperwork, jargon, and confusing the borrower is never a good thing. And this is what I experienced when I bought my house in 2022. I didn't realize how much paperwork it goes into buying a house, right? And now Biden want to throw another wrinkle in there. Come on, wokeness is going to destroy us. I'm telling you, it's already eroding common sense. Now they're trying to. I believe wokeness gives more problems than it actually tries to solve. I think wokeness hinders people based on, like, they have this idea, we want to make a society a better society. We want to make society an equal society. But the way they go about it, it causes more division. Anti-racism is the only way to cure racism. Anti-racism is racism in disguise. Because essentially how you go about absolving racism is you being racist. You discriminating against someone based on the color of their skin. Oh, you're a white person. You have an inherent negative on you based on the ideology of anti-racism. Like, this woke stuff will destroy us. Sorry. Excuse me. This woke stuff will destroy us. Let's continue. Oh, let me. It makes sense if you're a member of Biden's administration in the name of equity. The Biden administration seeks to close the racial gap in home ownership. To do this, they're enlisting, hey, Jonathan Fields, what's up? How are you doing? To do this, they're enacting numerous changes to the housing market that will benefit those at the lower end of the spectrum, which tend to be minorities for a variety of reasons. You're incentivizing people not to be, responsible. I don't know where Biden's going with this. This is why wokeness will destroy America. You want to you're going to set up people to fail. This is a mismatch. You're mismatching people with a property that without this rule, they would never have had. You're essentially creating subprime loan mortgages all over again. You're essentially creating ninja loans all over again. And then when we go to a 2008 the crisis again, banking crisis, mortgage crisis again, you're going to act like, oh, I have the solution for you, but you started the problem with these policies. Like this, if people just took time to think through what they're doing with these policies, they can easily see the long range problem. But Democrats are only about short term solutions. They want to look like they're solving something instead of actually solving something. They rather treat the symptoms than the root cause of this thing. Why are you in a lower credit score? Oh, it's because you don't have a good job. Oh, it's because you're financially irresponsible with your credit. That's an individual level. Government can't do nothing about that. Government needs to get out of the way. Government needs to stop acting like like our parents. We're adults here. Treat us as such. But our government treats us like children. I honestly, especially if it's a Democrat. Democrats seem to have policies to make adults seem like children. I'm tired of this. I'm very well, says Jonathan Fields. So I will be resting soon, but I want to catch the stream before I sleep. How are you? You don't have to answer. Just keep focusing on the show and respond when or if you can. I've been doing okay. This week's been hectic and crazy. That's what I'll tell you. Biden's doing this stuff, and it's just one story. Like Jonathan Fields, man, the weekend couldn't have come fast enough, bro. Because a lot of all this craziness has been going on this week. It's crazy. So according to the New York Post, industry experts said that this is going to wind up backfiring. It's going to be a challenge trying to explain to somebody that I worked my whole life for a high credit score. I put down a lot of money down, and you're telling me that's a negative now? That's a hard conversation to have, one expert told the Post. Like, it seems like, and this is my problem with Biden. Biden is a career politician. It seems like, do these people ever live in real life? Like imagine breaking that down to somebody. You're going to pay higher for your car payments because you're financially responsible. No, that's not going to go over well. Even former Obama officials are sounding an alarm. It's unprecedented. David Stevens, Federal Housing Administration Commissioner under President Barack Obama, told the Post, my email is full from mortgage companies and CEOs telling me how unbelievably shocked they are by this move. The push to put riskier mortgage in the hands of those who couldn't otherwise afford the house also can cause disruptions should a recession hit, which the Federal Reserve is predicting. None of this matters to President Biden and his ilk. They never let a bad idea get in the way of equity, right? Looking good instead of being good, right? You judge a policy on its results, not its intentions. Our intention is to make everything equal. We want to level the playing field. Black people tend to be high risk borrowers, not because Black people are inherently bad at managing credit and they should be ostracized from owning a house. It's them. It's personal responsibility. It's their responsibility to better their credit so they can qualify. And this is just how wokeness is one component of how wokeness is destroying us culturally. They're putting this culture where you don't expect minorities to rise to a standard. You bring the standard down to where the minorities are at. Instead of demanding the minority people to strive to be exceptional, you want to bring the standards down so they can qualify without even doing anything extra from it. And it's sad. It's the bigotry of low expectations. Now, the next topic will be reaction to the Democrats saying that the transgender issue in sports is not a real thing, right? Jonathan Fields says that, yes, I agree. There's also a lot to take in about what's going on in this world. You telling me? So here's some news. Top House Democrat says men and women's sports is an issue that doesn't exist. As you know, Hakeem Jeffries stood in solidarity with the rest of the Democratic Party. If you haven't heard, none of the Democrats voted for this bill, right? Which, if I was a woman, I would have some problems with that. I'm like, damn. So you don't believe in biological women? Transgender, like the Democrats parties are showing you who they are. They care about looking good, not being good. Women just say, hey, you should compete with people who matches your biology. And these Democrats, not one voted for the bill to ban transgender females from participating in women's sports. Bruh. The craziness. Oh, I don't have my headphones, so I can't hear the sound effects. That's crazy. Jeffries criticized the measure, claiming that all kind-hearted Americans stood with him in supporting trans-identifying children and said that extreme mega Republicans were attempting to amplify an issue that doesn't exist. How can you amplify something? You can't multiply zero, Hakeem Jeffries. If it doesn't exist, you can't multiply. How you amplify a problem that's not there that you said doesn't exist? That's how you know they lying. And imagine he tried to paint himself into, like, he's trying to brag. Oh, kind-hearted Americans will agree with us. No, naive Americans will agree with you. People who see the world the same way you do will agree with you. But that doesn't necessarily make you kind-hearted. Does it make you kind-hearted to set someone up to do a procedure that in the end will still lead to suicide ideation? To me, nope. That's not a kind-hearted thing to do, to set someone up for failure. That's not kind-hearted in my view. But I guess me and you have a different version of kind-hearted, Hakeem Jeffries. This is the video just pretty much explaining what he said. I'm not going to play through it. Referencing the bill, which is expected to die in the Democratic-controlled Senate, Jeffries added, "I believe in the fundamental goodness and decency and integrity and respectfulness of the American people." With the Democrats or politicians in general, it seems like language have no meaning with these people. They'll say anything that, as long as it sounds good. Oh, this sounds good. Like politics seems to me is starting to turn into this game where you say you say what you want to say in the nicest possible way. You say it in a way where it will be hard for people who don't know how things work in the country to disagree with you, right? And this is the problem I have with politics. It seems like it's getting to the point where the average everyday American cannot understand what the hell is going on, right? They talk in these niceties. They don't give it to you straight. They dress it up, word salad, Kamala Harris style. They dress up what they trying to mean and they hide the fact that they're doing something. Oh, it's nice. Oh, it's for goodness, decency and integrity, respectful, right? But they don't actually tell you about the policies. Okay, why you voted against this policy? Instead of talking about the policy and why they don't agree with the actual policy, because they know that's not going to be a good look. They tell you, oh no, goodness and decency, kind-hearted Americans agree with what we're saying. Oh my God. He went on to argue that for him, that bill, which splits across party lines, was not political. Rather, he said it was about being there for all American children. To me, trans kids don't exist. I think trans kids are created, right? So, because at the end of the day, if you leave a kid to his own devices, they'll never come up with this concept of transgenderism. Transgenderism is not a natural thing. This is another thing that wokeness is destroying us. Wokeness is also destroying us from a cultural perspective. I gave you the political one. Biden out here rewarding riskier home buyers with a lower interest rates. He's punishing people with who's been financially responsible to have a high credit score with higher fees. That's one way wokeness is destroying us, in the name of equality. Oh, because black people on average tend to have lower credit scores. Minority on average tend to have lower credit scores compared to whites. Asian people have higher credit scores compared to everyone else. But, you know, Biden don't care about that. But I digress. Now, here in the culture, transgenderism is destroying common sense to the point where people are questioning what is a man and what is a woman. It's baffling to me, including transgender kids, which in my view doesn't exist. This is subjective. This is not a fact. And for the Democrats to sit here and dress up, have this word salad out here saying, oh, we're kind-hearted people stands with us. Decent people stand with us. So only people that agree with you are decent people, Hakeem Jeffries? Like, it's projection at this point. Who just wanted to be able to live? That's his claim. And to belong and to make friends. It's okay if you think you're a woman or a man when you're not. But to being able to live also means to be able to respect someone else's rights as well. If it's your right to live how you see fit, it's my right to believe my beliefs and my understanding of the world. If I view you and I say, hey, this is the reason why I don't see you as a woman, you must accept that. Just like an atheist must accept that a Christian can live in his country as well, a transgender person has to live with people that understand that they must understand that people don't see the world the same way they do. That's what it means to live with each other. That's why I said submission is not tolerance. But these people don't seem to understand that. They say you have to see the world the same way I do or you're a bigot. Imagine if Christians had that same beliefs. Oh, you don't see the world the same way I do? You're a bad person. And this is the pretty much the argument that Hakeem Jeffries is having here. So, it might be lagging a little bit. Is YouTube taking it down? I hope not. I probably, like I said, they're really being hard on the transgender stuff. Like, you can't really take. I hope not, but mine seem to be up still. So I'll continue if anything else. He continued, that's something that all Americans, I believe, all decent, kind-hearted Americans fundamentally support. And extreme mega Republicans are trying to sensationalize an issue that doesn't really exist in the way that they're falsely portraying. I wonder, Leah Thomas, is that falsely being portrayed? How about all the instances of middle school sports, high school sports with men to women, transgender people winning in these sports? To the point where women are starting to think schools do it on purpose, but that don't exist. What about the what happened recently? Apparently there was they're mentioning it right here. But despite Jeffrey's insistence that the issue doesn't really exist, trans identifying athletes, Charlie Barnes just recently helped Brooklyn High School win the Mississippi State Inter-Scholar Athletics Association Division I Indoor Track and Field Championship. All right, this instance of it, first time. Welcome for all the first time viewers. I really appreciate you guys. If you like the stream, thanks for watching. I'll continue the story. Welcome to the live stream. I'm going to talk about how wokeness is destroying America. Just last year, trans-identifying University of Pennsylvania swimmer Leah Thomas, who is the most commonly known one, who is still biologically full male, won a NCAA Women's Championship title. Hey, what doesn't exist, Hakeem Jeffries? And this issue just doesn't suddenly arise in the last year or even over the last several years. In 2018, Connecticut State High School Women's Track and Field Championship was dominated by two biological male identifying trans identifying students, right? Hulu has even released a documentary aptly named Changing the Game that follows the path of three trans-identifying athletes involved in their high school sports team. But Hakeem Jeffries says that this is a problem that doesn't exist in America. Bruh. It was lagging for me. Maybe it was my internet. Maybe it's my internet. I'm doing a lot over here. So I covered how Biden is woking up common sense, saying, hey, if you're a high risk borrower, you pay higher interest, because we're trying to disincentivize people from having bad credit. Because end of the day, standards apparently are racist, right? So we got Biden here trying to destroy standards. We got Hakeem Jeffries and the entire Democratic Party in Congress not voting for a bill that's going to separate by law men and women's sports, right? We're going by biology, YouTube, before you censor me, right? So now the next step will be the next woke agenda. The favorite, the number one favorite wokey.
How dare
that was a clue for what's the next topic going to be. Biden signs executive order to make the entire government focus on environmental justice. Now, here's a quote I want to read. It talks about, because climate change has been something going on for 70 years. Yes, you heard me right. If you're a Gen Z and a millennial, climate change hysteria has been around for 70 years. This is a quote from Joseph Scrumpturd. Hope I said his name right. Probably didn't, knowing my record. The first thing a man will do for his ideal is lie. And my argument here is the Biden administration, y'all lying. Environmental justice. What injustice that the environment has done? How can a non-living entity, an abstract idea, be injustice? I don't understand. But that maybe I'm not understanding something. So let's read into the article. Let's read into the news. President Joe Biden issues an executive order on Friday compelling the entire federal government to focus on addressing environmental justice. And this is one of the things I like about these social justice warriors, or what Thomas Sowell will call them, cosmic justice warriors, is that they believe they honestly believe themselves to be God in a way, in my view, because they're even saying, hey, how the environment is wrong. because everyone know the natural law is survival of the fittest. Adapt or die. That's the human condition. That's all animals' condition. And they think, oh, that's not fair. The weak will die. The slow will suffer. If you're not able to adapt, you perish. You'll be essentially eliminated from the gene pool because you were not genetically able to survive in this environment. So they're thinking that's not fair. Who decides fair? How you decide fair? How I decide fair is, hey, everyone deserves a shot, but not everyone deserves to make the team. So I don't know. This is the first time I heard environmental justice, but I'm sure it does with the environment, and I'm sure it's going to point out how minorities are the most affected. Another problem with wokeness, anything that affects the minority, they don't look at the minority and say, hey, how can the minority rise up and change their situation? How can we help the minorities help themselves? No. Democratic government or statists, they like to know, hey, I want the minorities to be dependent on the government, and we will save them from this stuff. All you have to do is give us power and we'll save you. And this is what they want. Bruh. But hey, man, let me get into the article because I want to get this under in an hour. And there's a video I want to show at the end of this, towards the end of this stream. The White House contended in a statement that racial discrimination, I told you it was going to be about race, created a situation in which minority groups are more likely to suffer from various environmental harms and purportedly more susceptible to the impacts of climate change. Climate change, the climate has been changing forever. Okay, Ice Age happened before we had the technology to actually have any dent on the climate. Where was the climate changes for that? The Ice Age happened. We didn't even have the technology to affect the climate, but the Ice Age happened. Like, imagine having the gall, the arrogance to think that you know how the environment's supposed to be. We have climate change every year. It's called the 4 seasons. But for some reason, it's a little too hot compared to last year. It's a little too cold compared to last year. Yo, life is not stagnant. You don't stay young forever. We all grow older. There's progress. Ebbs and flows. Like, life moves in a range. Like, there's no such thing as perfect weather. And that's a subjective claim. That's a subjective opinion, belief. And based on some preconceived notion of how the weather is supposed to be, how hot it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be 96 degrees last year. Why is it 97 degrees? Oh my God, we're going to all die in 12 years.
How dare you?
And climate change, the environmentalist has been preaching this for 70 years. When I was a kid, Al Gore, I believe, the one that ran against George Washington, I remember he put up a book about how the Atlantic is melting. Rising sea levels. We'll all die if we don't address this. And this is how you know someone's trying to make you do a bad decision. Because end of the day, environmental justice to me is just it's word salad to justify Democrats spending more money on useless ish. That's just my take. Bruh. Hey, that's just my take. Well, let me look in the chat. Let me say, oh no, eugenics, did humanity really live like survival of the fittest? One of the things I believe is agenda and not science is pushing the idea the strongest, smartest, fittest was the only one who survived. Pretty much it's adaptation. Adaptation is the main game. It's not, you don't have to necessarily be the strongest or the fittest. It's just you have to be able to survive in the environment that's been created, right? You can look at the environment like a test, right? Just like how if a disease came in and wiped out a certain genetic trait, people who are not of that genetic trait will live. So there's different factors that achieve this, but it was just a figure of speech I was using to illustrate my point. But let me get back into the article. The executive order will deepen the whole of government's approach to climate, which Biden has frequently touted. One of the things I get annoyed with this climate change stuff is I think it's Democrats' way of trying to give the appearance that they're actually doing something when really they're doing nothing but like preach word salad. Just like the new woke mayor that's getting Chicago, how he's saying, oh, we're not going to be soft on crime, but we're going to approach crime from a comprehensive approach, but doesn't actually define what comprehensive approach he's going to do. This is the same thing with this executive order. We'll deepen the whole of government approach to climate, which Biden has frequently touted. How are you planning to address these problems that you claim to be an issue, Joe Biden? Like for too long, climate changers been trying to like scare us into doing things exactly how they do it. And the funny part is they think they're the only ones with solutions. Conservatives like, hey, we could reuse some of the coal, create filters to limit the carbon emissions. No. We don't want to hear none of that. We want everything to be electric. Everything has to fit our solution. Our way is it's our way or the highway. That's the Democratic playbook. If you don't do it our way, you're a bigot. If you don't do it our way, you're a climate change denier. Like for the longest time, conservatives was like, oh, use nuclear energy. Nuclear is not carbon emissions. They never wanted to admit that nuclear wasn't generating carbon. For the longest time, they wanted everything a specific way. We want everything electric. We want everything solar. That's the only acceptable position you have to address climate change. When there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. If something is wrong based on your position on it, that's a subjective view. Especially when you got no facts or evidence behind it. And some make the argument that switching everything to electric will create more carbon emissions because apparently the batteries are not recyclable because they're made out of sulfuric acid, which is dangerous to the environment apparently. But hey, I digress. I don't know much about climate change, but I do know I have a lot of questions about it. For too long, communities across our country has faced persistent environmental injustice. Okay, here we go. Through toxic pollution. I don't think. Let's finish reading. Underinvestment in infrastructure and critical services and other disproportionate environmental harm, often due to a legacy of racial discrimination. Let me ask you guys something. How does toxic pollution hurt just black people? Could it be black people? Toxic pollution hurt poor communities, and these poor communities tend to be disproportionately black? Maybe that's the problem. So the problem is you're poor and you can't afford the means to move into a place with less pollution. That's the argument here, or at least that's how I perceive it. Including redlining. Redlining has been, I already debunked redlining. Like black people on average tend to have lower credit scores, tend to have lower income. You combine those two together, you're a high risk borrower. So a lot of banks won't want to take you on as a borrower, and if they do, they'll hit you with so much high interest. You probably be like, no, I don't want the loan. This is why the average car payment of a black person, they pay more on their car payments than compared to like white people and Asian people because of the credit score. But people will look at it service level and say, oh, this is racial discrimination by the loan companies. Black people are paying more car payments than white people and Asians, not realizing the fact that black people on average have lower credit scores than everyone else, but they don't want to succeed this point. And you know who rejects more black applicants for loans than majority white banks? Black banks, because black owned banks tend to be smaller banks. And if you're a smaller bank, you can't afford to take high risk borrowers. Like, imagine that. Black banks are more likely to reject a black person's application than a white bank. That's craziness. Shout out to Jonathan Fields. Good night and God bless. Good night and God bless to you too, Jonathan Fields. I really appreciate the super chat. Thanks for coming by. Hope you have a good night's sleep, and I hope you have a good weekend. Thank you. So true. Good vibe. Good verb. Yes, it happens. I don't know why it lags for me. Maybe it's just my internet always. Anyway, good night, Koi. Good night. God bless. God bless. Okay, so I'm done with the reading the super chat. I appreciate that, Jonathan Fields, and I'll continue with the article. The White House statements asserted that these communities with environmental justice often concerns even greater burdens due to climate change. Biden, who unveiled the executive order in the Rose Garden on Friday, also created the White House. You always notice how they always create some new department and make the government bigger. Oh, here's another czar that you need to appease to. White House Office of Environmental Justice, led by a federal chief environmental justice officer. Like, what's the point? How are you going to steward the environment? All you can do is maintain or take care of, just like a field, just like a crop, just like a farmer tilling to his field. You can manage the field. You can take care of the field. How are you supposed to do that with environmental stuff? I don't understand. When it's people that creates pollution. So are you going to somehow dictate to people what they can and can't do? I mean, California's trying to do this stuff and they got rolling blackouts. Standard of living is decreasing in California. What's the trade-off here? That's what I want to know. What's the trade-off here? Okay, Koi says, I too will have to catch up later. Just hopped in to show some of my support. Under the weather today. Have a good night. I hope you're feeling well, Koi. I hope you're feeling better. Rest up. You just catch me on the replay then. In order to coordinate environmental justice policies across the federal government, I don't know how that's going to do. The order makes clear that the pursuit of environmental justice is a duty of all executive branch agencies and should be incorporated into their mission, and directed the agencies to consider measures which address adverse environmental and health impact on communities. So pretty much they're forcing all the other government departments to abide by these standards and beliefs and rules. Craziness. Including the cumulative impact of pollution and other burdens like climate change. Oh, here we go. Racism is a fundamental driver of environmental injustice. The statement continues, adding that the order directs agencies to actively facilitate meaningful public participation and just treatment of all people in agencies' decision making. I believe people are already doing that, but this is, in my view, this is a way of Democrats trying to show like they're doing something. Right? This is all the show, right? This is all pandering at this point. Oh, look, we did this for you. We created a new department to solve environmental injustices in America. We did that. The Republicans didn't do that. Like, I don't know, man. This is just fluff to me. It's not doing anything that actually would help the community. This reads like a joke, but it's real life. Yes, drive to drive. You're absolutely right. The previous executive order for the White House said addressing climate change is at the center of United States foreign policy and national security. Biden hosts a climate summit with other world leaders within months of entering the Oval Office. That's where he joined the Paris Accord, where he went right back into it. The reason why Trump took us out of the Paris Accord is because Trump was like, hey, we're the only ones following this. We're hindering our own energy independence just to be part of this Paris Accords when India's not following it, when China's not following it, and they're one of the leading producers of pollution in the entire world, India and China. So if you're saying that climate change is the center of U.S. foreign policy, then I expect Biden to really be trying to crack down hard on China and India. But is he going to do that?
Nope.
No, he ain't got no leverage with them. Now they just grouped up together with the I forgot the acronym from them already, but they're trying to take the American dollar off as being the world reserve right now. So I don't know, man. This is how wokeness will destroy America, and this is one of the biggest reasons, because I think policies like this, let's say, because when U.S. is the world's reserve currency, they can force developing countries or third world countries that need a loan from the United States to develop their country. They could put these unnecessary standards and be like, hey, you need to believe in climate change, right? This is part of the liberal world order, liberal democracy, right? We're going to spread capitalism throughout the world by making people adopt a democracy around the world. This is how the Americans do it. And Russia, China, India, I think South Africa, I believe, they're offering an alternative to the US dollar, saying, hey, we'll loan you money so you can build up your infrastructure, but we won't force our principles, our beliefs, or ideology on you. Just like how Kamala Harris went to Africa and tried to tell Africa, oh, we're going to withhold money from you because you have anti-LGBT laws. Like, bruh. It's another form of colonization, right? The main thing liberals like to make like to critique American history, British history, is that, oh, you're a country of colonizers, but you guys are pushing cultural colonization. Like when they went to Qatar, they was telling people in Qatar, oh, you should accept LGBT. No, that's not in their culture to accept that stuff. And I always ask, how far are you willing to push this on another country? Are you willing to go to war to make Qatar not be anti-LGBT? Like, are you willing to go to war for this? A lot of you guys, no, you're not willing to go to war for this. So why are you pushing so hard against another country to adopt your world beliefs? But hey, I'm telling you, this wokeness stuff is destroying us from a foreign policy, in our actual country, culture, is wrecking us. And I think if we don't push back against this stuff soon, we'll fall like Rome. I'm being serious. We'll fall like Rome. I'm gonna take a little drink break, but the most recent executive order follows the passage of Inflation Reduction Act, which never really reduced inflation because we're still dealing with inflation. The bipartisan infrastructure law. I bet you if you look at these laws, they don't do exactly what they're supposed to do. It's just word salad to disguise the real intent or the real result of these policies. Both of which allocated substantial funds for climate initiative and renewable energies incentive. There's another stat this thing made me remember. Did you know the amount of land that solar panels will take to generate electricity for an entire state is not feasible? Like, there's so much open fields that's needed for solar panels that it's effectively inefficient compared to fossil fuels. But they're pushing more money behind this. It's wasteful spending. It's not efficient. And all I ask is the government needs to be more efficient with their spending. But I don't think this is going to happen anytime soon. Biden administration officials have introduced new emissions rules for household appliances such as gas stoves and refrigerators, tightening energy efficiency standards for mobile homes, and proposed new vehicle emissions regulations to encourage the increased adoption of electric. Government subsidies. I am so against government subsidies. Government subsidies is, in a way, how government is trying to influence the private market. Oh, here's taxpayer money, government. Okay, even though our consumers don't want electric cars, the government's paying us billions and billions of dollars to make all our cars electric. So we will make all our cars electric. And effectively, even if the consumers, us, we don't want electric cars because electric cars are more expensive than gas cars. So financially, it doesn't make sense for the average American to adopt electric cars, but they're forcing it on us, right? This is crony capitalism. This is why if you're a free market capitalist like I am, you're against government subsidies. This is why. Because you change the incentive from private companies being driven based on what the consumer want to being what the government want. And this is what's going on right now. This is why in my head, just like they want to argue about separation of church and state, there needs to be a separation between state and business. I'm very anti-government subsidies just for this reason. Because it pushes, because at the end of the day, if the government say, hey, we don't want any companies having, let's say, stereo radio in the cars, and they put out big subsidies for that, businesses see that as guaranteed money. Oh, instead of appeasing millions of people, all we have to appease is these small groups of people in government. What's the easier choice? These small groups is easier to please 15 people than 15 million people. And especially if the 15 people can give you guaranteed money at a consistent amount compared to consumers who, based on a whim, will buy a new product because we're like, I don't like the stereo. I don't like the fact that this car don't have a stereo. I don't like the fact that this car don't have a Bluetooth. I'm not going to buy this car no more. I'm going to buy a different car. It makes logical sense for these companies to cater so much to the government. And this is the kind of incentive that I want out of the private sector. I don't want government involvement at all. But that's me being idealistic. Biden nixed expansion to the Keystone Pipeline when he entered office and slowed federal oil leases approvals over the past 2 years. He's meanwhile returned the U.S. to the Paris Accord, which I mentioned earlier, an international treaty that calls for reducing worldwide emissions by half ahead of 2030. As he promotes the broader transition towards renewable energy. Despite the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act and the bipartisan infrastructure law, some Democratic lawmakers recently renewed their calls for more intense climate regulation. AOC, and I always get her name wrong. I just had her name. Andrea Ocasio-Cortez and Senator Ed Markey this week reintroduced the Green New Deal. Of course they did. They say, hey, why not spend more money on climate change? Come on, guys. A revolution which claims to solve climate change by drastically reshaping the American economy. The text on the resolution called for for the United States to meet all power demands through renewable and zero emissions sources, which is not possible because the amount of land that is required to have a bunch of solar panels is out there. Like, you waste a lot of fields just having solar panels there that could have been used to grow food, grow crops. There's not enough space on our land to power. Like, and even then, it's only going to power us during the day. What about night? What are we going to do about nighttime? This is why California is dealing with rolling blackouts. But hey, I digress on this. So here's another. The next article I'm gonna talk about little Bud Light, and I'm probably just gonna skim through this one because it's not as important, and I kind of want to do this just to calm down. So Bud Light update. Since Bud Light unveiled this partnership with Dylan Mulvaney earlier this week, obviously we already know what's going on. So I want to talk about, could this be an opportunity for conservatives to finally teach pandering corporations a lesson, to show them the go woke, go broke isn't just an empty slogan, with many brands having become embroiled into controversy after showing support for left-wing causes. Few have suffered any real long-term damage. I suspect it could. According to the latest sales figure, which they got this from Beer Bound, Bud Light is down while Coors Light and Miller Lite are up. Which more, this divergence is mirrored in the stock prices of Anheuser and Birch and Molson Coors, which owns the two competitor beers. So obviously you can see the Google search for internet interest for boycott Bud Light. It slightly went down, I guess. As the chart above indicates, the boycott gained massive appeal on the 6th of April when there was a huge spike in Google search interest. As of the 16th of April, interest remained elevated. Turning to the charts below, Anheuser-Busch stock prices initially crashed 4.5%, though it seems to since recover most of its losses. Meanwhile, Coors stock has jumped more than 10%. So obviously you can see through the stock prices that the pricing has changed. Now, I don't tend to worry about stock prices because I think stock prices end of the day is just supply and demand, right? It just pretty much is, if people think it's a good stock, the price will go up, right? If there's a lot of demand for the stock and there's not enough supply of the stock, the price will go up. It doesn't necessarily deal with anything with the actual fundamentals of the company. Many investors make these calls that they think, oh, Anheuser-Busch is a steal here. So this is why you have to wait until the quarterly reports, until they actually have to go into their quarterly meetings and report on their sales numbers. Because then when investors hear bad news about the sales, they're like, damn, they didn't sell as much beer as they were supposed to. This is when the price will be affected. So stock prices are a lagging indicator, not a leading indicator. So sales is a leading indicator. If someone's not making enough sales, or you see that, oh, damn, you're consistently losing sales week over week, that's a leading indicator that the stock prices will go down. But I'm getting into complicated territory. This divergence may not seem like much, but it's worth remembering that Anheuser-Busch is a behemoth that owns dozens of brands. No problem, Joseph Vickery. Hope you enjoy yourself and have a good night. Including Burke's, Corona, and Stella. Damn, they own a lot of beers. Since most boycotters either aren't aware of this or only want to punish Bud Light, expecting a large decline in stock prices isn't realistic. What is realistic, when corporations first started taking sides in a culture war, there was a sense amongst conservatives that the market would punish such behaviors and offenders would learn to cut it out. Events over the last few years have disabused them of this notion, which is true. They now understand that simply venting on one indignation on social media isn't enough to make corporations get the message, and you actually have to do something. Of course, right? Of course, engineering change isn't always easy. Boycotting the NFL was never going to work because they just doesn't start your own sports league. And this is true. With Bud Light, you always can go into get another beer. But one of the things I want to talk about with this boycott is that it seems like it's starting to level off a little bit, especially with YouTube cracking down on people talking about Dylan Mulvaney or transgenderism. Matt Walsh got his whole channel demonetized because he didn't want to say pronouns. He didn't want to respect trans identifying people's pronouns. It's crazy about, like, when people say, oh, boycotts don't work. Okay, if it don't work, why are you trying to tell people not to do the boycotts? Like, you like, people who are against the boycott tell on themselves. If something wasn't working, wouldn't you encourage your enemy or your rival to continue doing what's not working? right? When your enemy is making mistakes, don't don't call it out, don't fix it. Let your opponent make mistakes. So why y'all come out opening, oh, boycotts don't work. Look, the stock prices are up. No, stock prices are a lagging indicator. They're only based on perception. Stock prices are here's the truth. Stock prices are only based on perception. If a lot of people think your company is a good company, your stock prices go up. If a lot of people think your company is a bad company, your stock price will go down. Supply and demand is whoever's willing to pay a price for your stock price. And when they get a buy, they're like, damn, this price keeps consistently getting this price. Oh, it's gonna keep going up. That's pretty much what stock prices are. So I don't really trust stock prices like that. But hey, I digress. It seems like this video may run a little long. So I think I want to end up and wrap this up here. This is going to be my last article. I wanted to get into other videos, but I'll probably do this later because I'm getting into the hour mark and I wanted to really keep this short today. So here's the last article for the day. The elephant in the room. Dysfunctional inner city culture, not systematic racism, is hindering black progress, new book says. And this author, I heard about her name is Heather McDaniels, sorry. And she's a New York Times bestseller. And she's releasing a new book that criticizes the left's obsession with equity. Equity is jeopardizing scientific progress. And as I stated before, social wokeness is jeopardizing political progress, cultural progress. Like, yo, we're regressing as a country, as a culture, as a people with this wokeness stuff. Destroying public order, poisoning the appreciation of art and culture. McDaniels, a fellow at the Manhattan Institution and contributing editor at City Journal, released When Race Trumps Merit: How the Pursuit of Equity Sacrifices Excellence and Destroys Beauty and Threatens Lives. I agree with that statement. Like, we all should get this book. This book is good. When Race Trumps Merit. That sounds like affirmative action, right? Oh, no matter your race, you can't do anything. You're a black man. You can't be successful. Oh, you can't buy a house without us, right? Joe Biden with his new policy that's supposed to punish high credit score, people with high credit score and high down payments. Because people of a certain race tend to be high risk borrowers. So he thinks, oh, it's the race. So let's rectify the race. If the race is the issue, let's fix it with privileges, instead of letting the people on their merits earn their position. Bigotry of low expectations, but I digress. The book makes the case that new policies applied in the name of so-called disparate impacts, which is what Joe Biden is doing, has only served to harm those who were put in place to help. The reality remains that a dysfunctional inner city culture is hindering black progress. I agree, right? Personal responsibility. That culture belittles academic achievement as acting white. Yes, as someone who personally experienced that in growing up in the hood, that is the case, right? A people's culture incentivizes what those individuals in that community do, right? Your culture either pushes you towards one direction or disincentivizes you from doing another thing. So if in your culture it's seen as uncool to be smart, you're pushing kids to do what? Not seeming smart, not reading, not learning, not acting white. And then based on the decision these people make, they get bad outcomes. Because this is what the culture is pushing them towards. Now, it takes a strong individual to fight against that culture, to be the black sheep, right? Because if the culture say, oh, this is the particular archetype all the people should strive for, that's what everyone strives to be. If you only have to be a baller, shot caller, you got to be a basketball player, you got to be a rapper, all your youth will push and fight to be athletes and rappers because they were conditioned by their culture to be seen as the only culturally appropriate thing for them to do of their race. And this is a big problem in the black community. This is why I say the black community got to look at itself, not outside appearances, not outside. Oh, you want to spend all the money? You don't got good credit? It's because of this. You want to look rich instead of actually being rich, because the culture shows you that if you don't have any material wealth, you're a nobody. And this is why I try to fight against every day, or speak out against at least. America turned its eye America turns its eye away from this pathological culture and blames itself for phantom racism, is what she's calling it. We pretend that the reason for the lack of proportional representation in institutions and after institution is racist measures against achievement rather than the vast academic and behavioral gaps. I agree with her on this. Education and behavior gaps is the biggest problem in the black community, right? Because end of the day, behavior gaps such as why there's a high rate of crime in the black community. A large proportion of the people who commit crimes come from single parent households. They have no authority figure. They don't respect authority. Black men are more likely to resist arrest, which causes things to escalate between them and the police. Right? It explains itself. But that's only if you want to look for it. If you want to admit that there's a problem in the black community and the black community has to be the one to fix it. No policy, no cultural change, no cultural push will change that. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. In response to alleged racism, McDonald says that society has created condescending and lethal double standards of accomplishments and behaviors that help no one. It doesn't. It only helps people who push these things feel better about themselves and their policies. As a remedy for this alleged racism, we create double standards of accomplishments and behaviors, right? For instance, we don't expect black kids to come on time. We don't expect black kids to turn in papers on time, right? We think black kids need more help on like test scores because they don't perform well in math scores. Now we claim math is racist. How can a non-living thing be racist? I don't know. You either know the answers or you don't. This is the same remedy is what's behind affirmative action, which says that black people can't get these jobs without getting special treatment. Bigotry of low expectations, right? But because this racism, because that's what affirmative action is. It's racism, but it's just a positive one. It's a positive. Like you look at it favorably, right? That's how black people, like a lot of black people are black liberals. That's how they view affirmative action. Oh, they see it as a positive thing. Oh, we're getting an advantage because of our skin color. This is a positive thing, but this is racism. It doesn't help anyone but you make you feel better about yourself. So when all these black people talking about, I graduated from Yale, someone's going to look at you and be like, you're a black woman. Did you really get to Yale because you were that smart, or you got to Yale because you were an affirmative action applicant, right? Now Yale and Harvard is losing their prestige. This is why no one respects college anymore, because we know you guys are giving you're giving special treatment to people because they're part of an underrepresented group instead of worrying about their merits, instead of worrying about their abilities. It's their skills, their knowledge. You only care about their skin color. And then by doing that, you discriminate against another group that's highly representative in these colleges, which is Asian students, another minority group. But you'll dismiss that. This is enough of them. We need to put more of them in there, without realizing that affirmative action actually harms black people because it causes a mismatch. It mismatches black students who otherwise wouldn't have gotten into these Ivy League colleges and setting them up for failure. Because it's been proven that affirmative action creates higher black students, higher dropout rates in black students. More black students drop out of these Ivy League schools because they've been mismatched. They would have performed well at a state school or another private college that wasn't Yale or Harvard. But the fact that they artificially put them up for Harvard and Yale, they couldn't handle the workload and they end up dropping out at a higher rate than people who got there on their own merits. And this is how affirmative action sets up a lot of black students or minorities to fail. But hey, I digress. But the double standards help no one. They are condescending and they are lethal, she writes. The book argues that disparities in representation through scientific labs and academy is not due to systematic racism, but academic skill gaps. McDonald's, I don't know why I keep saying that. McDonald said that instead of addressing the root cause of this problem, the left has turned to pushing equity, which is equal outcome, which is impossible. In turn, McDonald said that this push for equity has serious implications for the field of science, law, and culture. In science, racial culture quotas are substituted for meritocracy, which is a bad idea. You're not going to get good quality doctors. Now, every black doctor is going to be seen with suspicion by their patients because you push this idea that you're not focused on their abilities, but what they look like. And that's racist. I'm sorry. And that's condescending as well. Like, damn, you can't get anywhere because you're a black man. That's a lot of assumptions loaded in this equality. But this is what happened with naive, idealistic people believe just intentions instead of the results. What are the results of this? If we carry this criteria based on skin color, what are the results? Would it help us as a society in the long term or not? Because short term, it may make you feel better about yourself that, oh yeah, we got this black doctor in, our policies help us. Look at how representative we are. But if you make the medical profession worse off because of it, you might even cite more racism in the future, not less. Because people are going to see a black doctor and be like, oh, you got in because of affirmative action. You're not a good doctor. And now the doctors have to go, and those black doctors will have to go up in an uphill battle to prove themselves and re-earn the trust of the patients. When before, a patient would not even have to worry about the skin color of their doctor because they would know, oh, you got in through medical school, you're a doctor. I understand how hard it is. I can trust you. Because you being here is a stamp of approval that you know what you're doing. You earn your spot. But putting this idea of equity in these colleges, you put out this idea that, oh, we hiring people based on skin color. Oh, I'm not sure if this person is actually qualified to take care of me. Because at the end of the day, when people's lives are at stake, they want the person who's best for the job. Not this is the best black doctor we find. I don't care about the best black doctor. I care about the best doctor. And the best doctor happens to be Asian white. I want him, not this black doctor. That's how most people quit, because at the end of the day, it's someone's life. So this wokeness is going to kill us. Like I said, wokeness is going to destroy America. And I'll stand on that. I digress. Let's continue with the article. McDonald explains she also sees that colorblind enforcement of the law is labeled racist, which is stupid in this world. Like, I don't understand this. How colorblind is? How am I saying, hey, we shouldn't consider someone's race as a criteria for whether they can do a job or not? Whether they should we shouldn't give people special treatment or disadvantages based on their skin color. They labeled that as racist. That's what I'm saying. Wokeness is upside down world. We're in bizarro world. Up is down, down is up. Anti-racist is racist. Racist is anti-racist. Like, what? White people will have white guilt, and because of their skin color, they can't quite understand the plight of black people. That's racist. That's a racist idea. You trying to consider that white and black people are two fundamentally different people. That's a racist idea. When we both bleed red. It's craziness. And this is what I'm talking about. Wokeness is just a narrative. It's just a worldview. It's just an ideal that people are willing to lie because they want it. My ideas has always been, if you test your beliefs in reality, and reality shows you that your beliefs are wrong, or your beliefs does not give the intended result, then you must accept that your belief is wrong. But these people don't want to accept that. You tell them, hey, your idea is technically racist. No, affirmative action is not racist. Well, you using race as a criteria to judge whether someone should get a job or not. Isn't that not racist? If I use that same logic, except for this black person from getting a job, but I said this person can't get a job because of their skin color, you will call it racist. But for some reason, you saying that this person should get the job, even if they don't quite meet the qualifications for this job compared to another individual. But because the other individual is white and this individual is black, we should give it to her, even though she's less qualified based on her skills and experience compared to the other candidate, because there's enough white people already in this company. But if you flip the logic and you say, hey, we have enough black people in this company, we're going to hire the white person, people are going to say that's racist. So call it down the middle. All I'm asking for is some consistency. But hey, I digress, guys. I really wanted to get more into this, but I probably make separate videos for the other ones. I really do appreciate you guys showing out. Any last super chats, any last comments before I end the stream? Yes, I made it within an hour, which I kept my promise. Okay, I don't see any actions. I really do appreciate you guys. If you're watching this on the replay, leave your comments below what you guys think. Agree, disagree. I also want to know if you guys want me for live streams just to focus on news, and in my pre-recorded videos I can just focus on breaking down ideas and concepts. I really like to hear you guys' ideas on this. Thanks for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. I'll see you guys around.